I've had a song stuck in my head all week. You know how that is. You have to be of a certain age to know this song. We're off on the road to Morocco. Hang on till the end of the line. It's from the movie Road to Morocco, one of seven satirical movies made by Bing Crosby and Bob Hope and Dorothy Lamour between 1940 and 1962. Bob and Bing sang that Morocco song while they were supposedly riding on a camel, and it got into my head while I was starting to prepare a reflection on the gospel story for this weekend's Mass, the story of the disciples of Jesus on the road to Emmaus. The titles of those movies suggest that the characters knew where they were going. They were on the road to Singapore and Zanzibar and Utopia, Rio, Bali, Hong Kong, and Morocco. But that wasn't the case with the two disciples. In fact, this account in Luke's gospel is all about a change in direction that these two men hadn't counted on. We discover them in the gospel on the day that we now call Easter Sunday, the day on which Jesus was raised from the dead. They have been in Jerusalem, presumably to celebrate the Passover, and now they're on their way back to their hometown, Emmaus. We're not sure where that is because there were several places called Emmaus at that general time in that part of the world, but Luke tells us that the Emmaus they were going to was 7 miles from the city of Jerusalem. And as they plod along, they meet someone whom they take to be a stranger. It's Jesus, whom they know, but they don't recognize him, either because he doesn't want them to, or because in the resurrection, his body has been glorified, which is the technical term used by theologians. In other words, his body has been taken into a new condition, not limited by time and space. St. Luke did write in another passage in this gospel that when Jesus was transfigured in the presence of three of his apostles, the appearance of his face was changed. Anyway, it turns out in the conversation that these two disciples are going home dejected because they thought Jesus would be, as they put it, the one to redeem Israel. In other words, the Messiah. But he was killed, and his body is now missing from the tomb. Some folks claim that Jesus is still alive, but these two, they don't know what to think. So they're turning their backs on Jerusalem, on the whole affair, really, and going home to Emmaus, supposedly to go on with their lives. Jesus explains to them that the Hebrew scriptures that foretell the coming of the Messiah make it clear that he would suffer before he was, well, glorified. Jesus has their attention telling them that, and they invite him to stay with them in Emmaus for that evening. And as they're sharing a meal, breaking bread, as the scripture says, they realize who he is, and he vanishes from their sight. And now they go on the road again, this time on the road to Jerusalem, where they find the apostles and tell them what has happened. We have seen the Lord. This is a story about doubt and about reassurance, not unlike other stories that we read in the Gospels, including the stories of John the Baptist, the Apostle Thomas, and the Pharisee Nicodemus, all of whom doubted but ultimately believed. We could find this doubt scandalous if it wasn't for the fact that most of us experience it in our own lives. And that most of us includes not only John the Baptist and Thomas Didymus and the two characters from Emmaus, but also the likes of Teresa of Calcutta, St. Teresa of Lisieux, Thomas Merton. We're in good company when we doubt. And while we may be reluctant to concede our doubt, no less an authority than Pope Benedict XVI has said that, if anything, we should expect it. That vacillating between believing and not believing is part of the dilemma of being human. When we deal with our Judeo-Christian faith, we deal with mystery, and in mystery, certainty eludes us. Although their belief was momentarily shaken, the disciples from Emmaus persisted. They went back to the community that Jesus had gathered around him. In doing so, they were models for all of us, the patrons of both doubt and of our ultimate faith in the Son of God.